I'll be the same, whatever.
I don't do none of them foreign languages. We're back on. Now, folks, if you will go to, if you're not watching, if you go to all the news, the LaFolletteNews.com, and, there it is. We're having technical difficulties. Anyway, if you go to LaFolletteNews.com and go to ugtv, you'll have two screens there to watch, and one of them is going to have a video on it. If you don't want to do that, you can just go to ugtv.tv, and this video is coming on. We're going to go off on one channel, but that other one is going to be on. And as soon as I find it, I'm going to put it on. And here it goes, and thanks for tuning in, and we love y'all.
We'll see you tomorrow night.
There were a couple of questions that were asked that I want to respond to. One was that the question was, were any of the miners survived? There was one miner who lived for 3 days, Billy Morgan. He was a Welshman, and he'd been in mine explosions before, and he happened to be at the mouth of the mine, and the story goes that one of his eyes got blown out, and he died 3 days later. So there were no survivors of the explosion. But there were 26 of the miners who barricaded themselves in a room in the mine, and they lived 7 hours. And we know this from the farewell letters that they wrote. And which one of Jacob Val's descendants is going to read his farewell letter? Come on in here.
All right, these are all from Jacob Val's letters that he left for his family. So we are shut up at the head of the entry with little air, and the bad air is closing in on us fast. It is now about 12 o'clock. Dear Ellen, who's his wife, I have to leave you in a bad condition, but dear wife, set your trust in the Lord to help you raise my little children. Ellen, take care of darling Lily. Ellen, little Albert said that he had trusted in the Lord. Chaz Wood said he was safe if he never lives to see the outside again. He would meet his mother in heaven. If we never live to get out of here, we are not hurt, but only perished for air. There is but few of us here, and I don't know where the other man is. Albert said for you all to meet him in heaven. All the children meet with us both. Ellen, darling, goodbye for both of us. Albert said the Lord had saved him. Do the best you can with the children. We are all praying for Elvis, but it is getting so without any air. Horace, Albert said for you to wear his shoes and clothing. It's now 1:30. Hal Harmon's watch is in Andy Wood's hand. I want you to live right and come to heaven. Raise the children the best you can. Oh, how I wish to be with you. Goodbye to all of you. Goodbye. Bury me and Albert in the same grave with little Eddie. Goodbye, Ellen. Goodbye, Lily. Goodbye, Jimmy. Goodbye, Horace. We are together. It is 25 minutes after 2. There are a few of us left alive. And then he ended with, oh God, for one more breath. Ellen, remember me as long as you live. Goodbye, darling.
Would you like to share some stories from your family?
Well, it's strange to think of little Jimmy referred to in these notes as my grandfather. My grandfather, as far back as I can remember, was tall, elder gentleman that was just kind of the light of my life. He didn't talk too much about the accident that took his dad. So I can tell you about him, though. He became an organizer for the United Mine Workers. He was very prominent in the 1920s and 30s. He was on the board of directors for District 11. Sorry, I get calls from Indiana. He did get blackballed from the mines here in Tennessee and had to move to Indiana. You heard the people from Linton were only one county away. So a lot of miners from this part of the city went to our part of Indiana for coal mining. But Jacob's son went on to be a very well-known and prominent man in the coal mining industry in Indiana. He was a member of the board of directors for District 11, United Mine Workers, and was well respected and consulted by men to him while he was in his 70s. He did die a little bit too young for us. So. He did come down here about a year before his death. My brother brought him and his wife down, and this was one of the last times he wanted to come down home, and saw, as referred to in here, as Brother Horace, who was known by to the families as Uncle Horse. We don't know whether or not it's the accent from down here or the accent from Indiana, but that was about it. But that was the last time they were able to see each other. A few years later, in the early 70s, my grandfather did pass away and never did get to come back down here home.
Thank you. A couple of things here. We noticed that in his farewell message, he asked that Harvey Elbert, that his son Elbert, he be buried in the same grave. And if you'll notice on the headstone here, Jacob's name is on one side and Harvey Elbert's name is on the other side. And he also asked to be buried beside little Eddie. Eddie was an infant son who had died several years before the explosion. And here's little Eddie's headstone right here. So they did fulfill his wish and bury Elbert and Jacob in the same grave next to little Eddie. And the Frews also found Ellen Val's death certificate, which says that she was buried here in Longfield Cemetery. We don't know if she's buried in that depression right there beside Jacob or what, but she is buried here also. A couple of questions were asked. We have some Hightower descendants with us, and the Hightower descendant didn't want to talk because one of the Hightowers, Tip Hightower, was initially accused of negligence because some said that he didn't light the furnace in time, and Tip Hightower is one of my heroes. I mean, he was, during the inquest, George Camp stood up. It would have been easy, George Camp was a superintendent. It would have been easy for George Camp to say, yeah, it was Tip's fault. But he didn't. He says, no, I'm sorry, but Tip has always been trustworthy. I always find his fire all right. And I've always believed that it had nothing to do with Tip because Tip's son died in the explosion and his nephew died in the explosion. So, Tip is one of the family. Any other questions? And again, I want you all to stand right where you are, and I'm going to move on the back side of you, and all I need you to do is turn around, and those on the end can horseshoe around me when I move up there. One of the other miners who perished in that room of 26 was Pal Harmon. And are you going to read the letter? Which one of you are going to read the letter?
Jim.
If I can get you to stand behind the mic here so we don't get feedback.
Dear wife and children, my time has come to die. I trust in Jesus. Teach the children to believe in Jesus. May God bless you all is my prayer. Bless Jesus. It is now 10 minutes till 10 and we are almost smothered. Don't know how long we will live, but it is our time to go. I hope to meet you all in heaven. May God bless you all, wife and children. For Jesus' sake, goodbye until we meet to part no more. Pal Harmon. And then as a postscript, my boys, never work in the coal mines. Henry and Condi, be good boys, and stay with your mother and trust for Jesus' sake. As far as I know, none of Pal Harmon's sons, with the exception of possibly Uncle Silas, didn't go in the mines. I think Uncle Henry did for a short period of time. I know my dad did long enough that in his later years he had black lung. And but how much of that was excavated by the work he did at Goodrich in Akron, Ohio, is quite debatable, because I think a lot of it came on because of that work also. But he worked in the mines before he went in the Navy, and after he got out of the Navy, he came back here, couldn't find work, went to southern Indiana to try to find work in the mines, and then made a trip on up to Columbus, Ohio to visit his sister, Aunt Myrtle. And at that point, he met someone that had worked in the rubber factories, and they told him about some of the jobs there. And he went up to Akron, Ohio to B.F. Goodrich and told him that he had worked in the pit, and which is one of the nastiest and dirtiest jobs in rubber in tire manufacturing. And he got a job there and worked at B.F. Goodrich for 38 and a half years. So,
Barb, would you like to come up and talk to us? Tell us some stories about your family.
my name is Barbara Titus, and I'm great-granddaughter of Pal and Josephine Harmon. My grandmother, Myrtle Shaver, was their daughter, and she told me a few stories. She didn't talk a lot about her father, but I knew that he had died in the Fraterville mine explosion. I didn't exactly know where Fraterville was, but I knew that, and I knew that her brother, Condi Harmon, had died in the Coal Creek Mountain explosion. She told me that she was 8 years old when her father was killed, and she missed him. All her life she would reference him, and she would reference Condi. One time when it was in December when Condi had been killed, the anniversary of his death, she mentioned to me that Condi died today, and that when they found Condi, his right shoe was off, and her mother, always felt that that was him trying to get a message to them, that he had gotten right with the Lord. And when she told me that, I was about 15, and I just kind of scratched my head at that. I, said okay and just let it go. But from being here at the memorial service last December, I learned that the mine rescuers do know where the body is found, and that it's common knowledge that the miners do try to get a message to their family. So it's quite possible that he was trying to get a message to his family. The only other story that she told me was probably she was about 6 or so, and she was in her parents' bedroom, and she was on the floor in the bedroom, and the dresser right by the window of their bedroom, of her parents' bedroom, and her father had taken his wallet off and put it up on the dresser. Pal's wallet was on the dresser, and she looked up to see a man's hand reaching in through the window, and it grabbed her father's wallet, and he took it, and they never got his wallet back. So that kind of made an impression on me too, to learn that. That's about all that I remember of them.
We bring the Briceville kids out here. We didn't do it this year because we did it last year, and we always spend time at Pal and Condi's grave, and we talk about this. This was, again, Pal Harmon died in 1902. In his farewell letter, he told his boys Henry and Condi never work in the coal mines. Yet Condi died in the Cross Mountain explosion in 1911. And and we talk about it with the kids, and I think as time has gone on, I've learned more about the story, and I think you got to remember that for those in this area during that time, it was their opportunity for a better life. They were younger sons of farmers. They had no future. Several have talked about their family members walking to other states just to find jobs, but this was their opportunity. This was a way for them to make more money than they could make any place else, and they did take risks. But so have a lot of people in this country. You know, pioneers traveled west in the days for new opportunities, and they subjected not only themselves but their families to risks. Whereas with the coal miners, they primarily subjected themselves to those risks. And they always had dreams for their children to have a better way of life than they did. In Pal Harmon's case, it was the American dream. He died before his family could achieve the American dream. And here's Condi, his eldest son, who's faced with a decision. You know, do I continue my education as my father wanted me to, or do I quit school and become a coal miner and support my family? And family came first, and he quit school and went to work in the Cross Mountain mine, and he never married, never had any children, and died at the age of 24, like I said, in the Cross Mountain mine explosion. And it was I think it is so fitting that Pal's other children have gone on to finish their education. His grandchildren have gone on to finish their education. And the list is quite impressive about how they have achieved the American dream. And I think it's quite fitting that Pal and Condi are forever linked in the Harmon's family story of achieving the American dream. And the fitting part is that they're buried next to each other. We have had framed copies of this story made up, and we'd like to give each of you one, and make sure that you always pass these stories on to your children.
This is why you always talk to reporters when they call you. Right, Fred? Exactly. Right, John?
There, would you move that watch?
I'm Larry Harmon, great grandson of Powell Harmon. I have one question. Does anyone know the origin of the name Conda or Condi? Three of the members of this, the three of the people that died were named Conda, and the new son was named Conda. I don't know if it's a Welsh name. Anyways, I don't have much to say about it. I'm proud to be a descendant of Powell.
Okay, I have one last story just to personalize Josephine and Powell. They had 8 children when Powell was killed, so Jake was the oldest son. His wife, Josephine, was a midwife, and she'd be gone from the family a lot, out helping women have their children. And the kids had to pick up slack when she was gone, and then when her father was killed, that's, you know, the pretty much the opportunity. I'm sorry, Condi was the oldest. That was why Condi, to support his family, had to go into the mines. The one other story that my grandmother told me was they had another daughter named Mary, and when Mary was about 3 or 4, my grandmother told me that Mary would complain that her stomach hurt her, and she would complain a lot that her stomach hurt, and my grandmother Myrtle would say, "Sing, Mary, the pain will go away, sing," and Mary would sing, but the pain didn't go away, and then Mary died. So that would have been before Powell was killed. So he'd lost 2 children, Thomas, Carol tells me, and then Mary. And that was why Condi went into the mills, or the mines, and wanted to support those 8 children that were left.
A little different. The Hightower family had worked in the coal mine for 20 or 35 years before this explosion, and for some reason we think my great-grandfather, they had gone away for a time, and they had come back, and he had overslept. This was before alarms. And my grandfather was one of those, my great-grandfather is one of those that survived. His brother was killed. He lost a cousin and an uncle that day. Well, my great-grandfather survived. He missed the bus, or however they got to the mines, a man trip. He missed that. And it's always been in our family, if something happened, you know, you lost your keys, or you can't find your phone, and you're a little late for something, or you just missed the bus, there's a reason. And it's always been something in our family. My grandmother hadn't been born yet, and if my great-grandfather had been there that day, our family wouldn't have been. And it's always just kind of been a different story from everybody else's. We missed the bus, and we were lucky.
TV.
Well, that's all, folks. Be sure to catch us again tomorrow night at 8 o'clock on cable channel 12. And I don't know whether I want to take this call or not, but let me see. TV.
Hey, Ronnie, how you doing, my friend?
Pretty good.
Y'all still on?
Well, I'm staying on just to talk to you, but I just got a minute. What can I do for you?
I was listening to y'all give commercials. Enjoying the show.
Did you watch that memorial thing?
Not yet.
Okay, I just ran it, the reason I asked.
No, I'm going to run the whole thing. I fell asleep and
That's
Rick
good.
called me.
Well, it should be posted in just a minute. I've got to finish up. Call us tomorrow night, okay?
Oh, I'll definitely do it, my friend.
We'll see you. Take care of yourself.
Okay, have you
Thanks
good.
for calling. Bye.
Bye.
That was our friend Roger. We appreciate him. Now, I'm going to try to save this thing, and you can see all except the first part of it. I think it's going to be split into 2. I don't know what happened. We had a problem there with our internet. We pay them what they ask us, but it just don't work all the time. Sayonara, folks. Be sure and tune in tomorrow night. And thanks for watching. Thanks for calling. Thanks for remembering our sponsors in a good way. Thank you.